Well, we have talked about two types of exchanges, intrapersonal and interpersonal exchanges, and we have broken down the latter into voluntary and coercive exchanges. Now we are going to concentrate on voluntary interpersonal exchanges and consider the problem of economic calculation, which we have introduced with our bridge diagram. However, to gain a deeper understanding of what makes economic calculation possible, we must make a third division of our topic. Voluntary exchanges can be of two types. So-called direct exchanges are those in which goods and services are directly traded for others without any involvement of money. Direct exchanges are also called bartering. And all of us, some more than others, have entered into barter transactions. I remember when I was little, I used to go to school on the bus with other kids and we would get bored, so we collected trading cards. We were always eager for new cards to come out and we would run to buy them. Well, the people who ran the trading card companies were very smart, and they would issue a large number of cards with certain players on them, and very few with others. Cards with certain players were quite scarce, so in our free time, each of us would walk around with a stack like this of the cards we had duplicates of, and we would show them to another child. He or she would say, "I have it, I have it, I have it, I have it, I don't have it." And that meant there was the possibility of making a trade. Now, show me yours. I have it, I have it. We'd do this until we found one we lacked, and then we'd exchange one card for another. An exchange of trading cards is a direct exchange, or a barter transaction. There are many other sorts of direct exchanges. For example, if we share an apartment, one of us might say, "Hey, could you wash dishes for me today if I do your shopping tomorrow?" So we negotiate, and perhaps we close the deal. Bartering. Money has not been used. I'm sure you can think of many other barter transactions. In contrast with direct exchange or bartering, we have indirect exchange. What is an indirect exchange? It is one in which goods and services are traded using money. That is the commonly and generally accepted medium of exchange we have just talked about. This is a different situation. Here, I hand over a good or a service in exchange for money, and with that money, I buy what I want. That's why it's called an indirect exchange. I don't directly obtain what I want in the exchange. Instead, I always ask for money, and then with the money, I acquire what I want. As you see, the exchange is indirect. For example, let's say I sell 1 kilo of butter for 20 euros, or I buy 1 kilo for 20 euros. I hand over the money, and the moment money appears, the exchange becomes indirect. Later, we will see that with bartering, an essential problem arises. It's the problem I've just described and illustrated with the example of trading cards. To close the deal, the other party must have the card I need or lack, and at the same time, I must have a duplicate of the card he or she needs or lacks. This is called the double coincidence of wants. For a barter transaction to be completed, there must be a double coincidence of wants. If there isn't, then the transaction is not completed. So, the problem of the double coincidence of wants is an insurmountable obstacle to bartering. Societies based on bartering alone are very underdeveloped societies, because the context for exchanges is extremely limited. Imagine an economics professor who had to use bartering. I would give you economics lessons. You're here, so in theory, you're interested in the lessons. But what do I need? Well, I need to buy a pair of shoes. Are there any shoemakers in class? No. I also need to buy a suit. Are there any tailors here? No. I also need to eat. Does anyone own a restaurant or a grocery store that could provide food? No? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be off. I'm going to go look for someone who needs economic lessons and also happens to have what I need. In fact, if you tell me the services you provide, I'm sure I don't need any of them. And yet, how is it that we're here? We're here precisely because the problem of the double coincidence of wants that arises with bartering can be solved with money. So it becomes irrelevant to me what you can provide, because if you give me money, I can use money to acquire whatever I want in the market. Money makes possible an exponential increase in the number of exchanges. Exchanges without money are reduced to a tiny fraction, and therefore backward societies, in which almost everything is for personal consumption, reduce the scope of social interactions, or of exchanges, to a minimum. When money emerged, the chances of making exchanges, the chances of human interactions, increased almost to infinity, and modern civilization emerged. I say that money is the quintessential social institution because it is precisely in that social process of exponential increase in exchanges, in human interactions, that, since I have to communicate with other people in the market, what used to be the dialects of specific regions or valleys converge, and languages like Spanish and English gradually evolve. Thanks to money, which permits exchanges, the emergence of markets, and the need to communicate with others. And since I need to communicate with others and close a deal that will be honored, contracts and law emerge, thanks to money. And since in many areas I need to develop patterns of honest behavior and integrity, etc., morality is refined, thanks to money. If money were to disappear, we'd go back to the age of Mad Max. The quantity of human interactions and the opportunities for interaction we now enjoy would be reduced to a tiny fraction. We would go back to the cave period. Morality would be forgotten. Law would be forgotten. The Spanish language would disappear. There would be a regression. That has also been studied historically and anthropologically. Society is an extremely complex network of interactions which consist of exchange relationships. Money makes it possible for those exchanges to increase, both quantitatively and qualitatively, to levels we cannot even imagine. And it is in that process of increasing exchanges that the rest of the institutions, linguistic, legal and moral institutions, are formed and refined. Therefore, dear students, money is the quintessential social institution, the most important one. But we'll go a step further. Every voluntary exchange, this is an essential law of economics, and it is so important that we're going to repeat it over and over again. Every voluntary exchange results from an inequality in subjective valuations, and these valuations are the reverse of each other. Each party must subjectively value what he lacks, and hopes to receive more than what he has and plans to give. If this inequality in subjective valuations does not exist, the exchange is not made. The voluntary exchange does not take place. All exchanges occur and are considered because, a priori, both parties believe they come out ahead in the exchange. If they do not come out ahead, voluntary exchanges do not take place. A couple marries because both spouses believe that they will come out ahead, that what they will receive in stability, love, etc. from the other party is worth much more to them than what they are going to give. If not, the voluntary exchange does not occur. It's important that you always remember this, because a legion of philosophers have been wrong in this area. For example, Aristotle, and through him, St. Thomas Aquinas, and even philosophers of today. They have thought, when there is an exchange, there is equality, and when two things are exchanged, they are equal. They have a common denominator. No, nothing could be more untrue. Where forces are equal, there is no movement. If the force in this direction is equal to this one, nothing moves. There is no change. Change always implies inequality. The parties in a voluntary exchange must make unequal valuations. They must both value what they lack and hope to receive more than what they have and are going to give in the exchange. If this is not the case, the exchange does not take place. Moreover, in any voluntary exchange, both parties must be convinced that they will gain as a result. If not, the exchange does not take place.